Hello everyone, my name is Rafael. I'm the tech support manager at Armstrong Power Systems. This is part of a series of videos that we have get to our customers in order to make simple the installation of all of our units. Today we're going to see how we install one of our most popular series, the Kubota series, on the open style. Basically, when you get one of these units, the first thing you're going to find is a tower that is attached to the rear part of the generator. So basically the first thing you need to do is to remove the two screws that are on the top of the unit that will hold the main panel closed. Once we remove those screws, we will be able to get access to all the connections. One of the things that we have taken care of here at Armstrong Power is that we want to make the installation as simple as possible for our customers. So for that reason, inside of each one of our units, we have built an installation panel where all the connections that the customer needs in order to do the installation with the transfer switch are ready to do. So basically you don't need to do any wiring after that. So we're going to start first with the unit. Once you open the panel on the unit, the first thing you're going to find on the left side of the panel, on the rear panel, you're going to find the first 4 wires that are basically the lines that do the sensing on the mains. All of our controllers have the capability of doing transfer switch logic. That doesn't mean that work at the transfer switch. It only means that it's capable of doing the sensing on the utility power and then make the decision if he detects any power cut or whatever to start the unit and start the sequence of using the generator. So the first 4 cables that you're going to find are labeled as line 1, line 2, line 3, and neutral. Basically, those will be the lines from the utility power. You just need to take those lines in the event that you have a non-logic transfer switch. If it's about the case like the transfer switch that we have right now, that is part of our series of transfer switches, that is a logic transfer switch. In this case, you're not going to use those connections because basically the sensing on the utility power will be done by the controller that is built on the transfer switch. Okay. After those 3 cables, the next cable you're gonna find is the B13. That basically is the remote start on the generator. The remote start that we use is a normally open remote start. So basically when you get the B13 cable, send it to ground is when the unit receives the command to start. The next 2 cables that you're gonna see here on the connection are the B03 and the B04. Those 2 cables again are used when you are using a non-logic transfer switch, so you're gonna need to have some signal to the relays on the transfer switch in order to switch the transfer switch to utility power or emergency power. And finally, you're gonna see 2 cables, one red that it's labeled as a 12B and one black cable that it's labeled as a G for ground. Basically those 2 cables are used to send power to your transfer switch. That's basically the connections that you have here. Now on the transfer switch side, if you're using one of our transfer switches, the first thing you're going to need to do is to verify with the unit, attached to the unit on one of the sides of the unit, you're always going to find a tag with the information on voltage, phases, power factor that the unit has. So the first thing you need to verify is what is the voltage that the unit was set up to. And also you need to verify that with whatever you request to the company to be an exact match. If you find any discrepancy between the power that you need and what the tag says, stop immediately any work and contact your distributor in order to see what happens if it is about a typo or actually the unit was connected to the wrong voltage. Once we verify that and we know what is the voltage that we will be using, the next thing you need to do is to be sure that the transfer switch is set up to the right voltage. The transfer switch is a multi-voltage equipment. So basically, when you look on the transfer switch and the connection board, you will see 2 connectors at the bottom. Okay? The one on the left is used for low voltage connection, which is basically 120 240 up to 127 220. any connection on that range, you're gonna need to put this black cable, you need to be sure that it's connected on this side, on the left side. In the event that you have a high voltage connection that starts on 380 up to 480 volts, what you're gonna need to do is to connect the black connector then on the right side, which is intended for high voltage connection. Basically the coil on the transfer switch, it works with 220. So depending on how you connect these, you are sending line to line the connection to the coil, or you are sending that line to neutral. So that will give you the difference in voltage. The next thing you need, you will see once you open the unit and you set up the voltage. Let's say we have a 120 to 40 connection. The next thing we're gonna do is start doing the wiring between the two units, okay? So to start, the first thing we're gonna put on the unit is the power. The power that the unit is gonna be using in order to turn on the controller and energize everything here. So when you look into the transfer switch, you're gonna see here two cables, one red, one black, labeled with 12 volts and ground. You're gonna take then first the 12 volts cable, and you're gonna wire that cable up to the generator, okay? And you're gonna connect it here on the 12 volt connection. Once you have that cable connected, the next thing you're gonna do is that we're gonna connect the ground from the battery that is on the generator. Okay, so we're gonna connect it on the port that is labeled as a minus, ground. And we're gonna take the other end to the generator where we have the G. Once you do that, if your battery connections are ready on the unit, you will find that immediately your controller is going to turn on, meaning that you already have power, DC power of course, on your transfer switch, which is necessary to make the controller work and of course to start all the logic process. Perfect. Once we have those two connections, the only thing we need to connect now is the remote start signal. Remember that we were saying that in this case, since the transfer switch is logic, we're not going to need to do any wiring from utility to the controller on the generator, because the one making the decision here is the transfer switch. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect one of the cables to the normally open contact that is labeled with an NO, the first contact on this 10-pole terminal. And then the other end, you're gonna take it up to the B13 in your generator. Okay? And finally, the last thing we need to install is the ground. The ground that the remote start will be using. So basically what you're gonna do, since we already wired a ground between the generator and the unit, the only thing we have to do is to put the jumper between the ground that you already bring from the generator up to the common port that it's labeled as a COM for common on your transfer switch. Once you do that, you will find out that everything is hooked up. You're ready to start doing your testing. And that's pretty much about it. The only thing you're going to need to do is to do the setup on the controller to be sure that there's no discrepancies between what the logic on the generator is and the logic on the transfer switch. Later on in some other video, we will explain you how to do that setup. Thank you very much for listening and keep in touch. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.